I have one of the best health insurance in the US, yet I had to get my fibroid surgery done in India. In this video, I'm going to share my experience about navigating the US healthcare system. And through my journey, you will learn three things: my observations on women health, comparing the US healthcare system to the India healthcare system, and learnings if you ever have to navigate the US healthcare system. Hi, I'm Priya and welcome back to our channel. And if you're new today, it's okay. Ours is a content platform for South Asian immigrants and we aim to educate, entertain, and empower them. Let's rewind to June 2024. I woke up around 4:35 a.m. in the morning with immense pain and discomfort, not knowing what was going on with me. I thought it'll go away for a couple of hours, so I kept lying down and trying all the homemade things. However, nothing worked out for me, so then I chose to go visit a doctor. Again, I didn't want to go to the ER because I'd never been to one. I realized that I had a subscription to One Medical and they offer virtual healthcare, which means I could get in front of a doctor or a practitioner very, very quickly. I tried that feature, and the doctor who joined the call, I explained everything that was going on with me for the last couple of hours, and they told me that this seems like a UTI, so we are going to give you some antibiotics and that should help me in the next couple of days. I told the doctor that I had never had UTI before, so this is absolutely new, and they said that I was lucky because most women at this age usually have experienced at least one UTI symptom in life. So I thought it's probably something new, and I took their prescribed medicine. I was still in a lot of discomfort throughout the day, but the very next day when I woke up, I was feeling like an absolutely new person and as if nothing had happened the previous day. So I went on with my life, completed my course, just thinking that, it's a regular thing and probably will not happen again now that I have completed my course of antibiotics. My parents were visiting the US at that time, so we were already got very engrossed with showing them around and things like that. Fast forward to the July 3rd. I think we were having a nice barbecue night with my family. We went to bed, and then again around 2 a.m. at night, I was starting to feel the same pain and discomfort. I woke Darshan up saying that I think it's the same thing. However, we don't have any antibiotics because here in the US, they just give you exactly the number of pills that the doctor had prescribed last time. So we had to go to the ER. Now, I had never been to an ER in the US, and this was like my first experience going into the ER. My parents were here, so I didn't want to worry them too much. Darshan and I rushed to the ER. I thought it would be a super simple process, but I had heard about the horrors of the US healthcare system, and today was going to be their first time actually experiencing it. So we waited at the ER. I think they were low on staff just because of July 4th. However, the steps for me were like checking my insurance and my ID. Once they checked my insurance and ID, they still kept me waiting. When someone became available, that would be a wait of around 30 to 40 minutes. They checked like my temperature, my weight, etc., the regular vitals, and then they took me into one of those rooms which had a bed. Someone came, they tested again, and I told them that something similar had happened in June, and all I wanted was that antibiotics because it made me feel better. So I didn't want to go through like any more of these ER experiences. But since it was a prescribed antibody, I was just requesting that please just give me this antibiotic and I can go home and I'll be fine. But they kept me under observation. They took a urine sample and they said that unless the sample comes back, they are not going to release me. Once the sample came back, they told me that I don't have UTI, but they still gave me a different antibiotic saying that it's still all your symptoms are UTI like symptoms, so please take this other antibiotic and you will feel better. They left me home I think I reached the ER around 2 a.m. and I was home at around 7 a.m. and that costed us like $2,200 or something. Once we were back home, I took that antibiotic, but I wasn't feeling better. But I knew that it takes like 12 hours because last time the same thing had happened. So I waited and pushed myself. And again, like the very next day, I was fine again as if nothing had happened. So I just assumed that probably it's the same thing. But this time I was not very happy with the diagnosis, and I really wanted to get to the root cause of it because I didn't want to suddenly start experiencing these symptoms because there has to be a better way. What if I have an important meeting? What if something important is going on? What if I'm traveling? So I had started developing this fear a little bit about what is really going on with me. The ER had actually told me to go see a urologist. So I tried to book an appointment. Now, this was the step 2 of navigating the horrors of the US healthcare system. Step 1 was the ER experience, where I think I waited and I was like yelling in pain and doing all that stuff. But all they did was took a urine sample, gave me the antibiotic that I asked for, made me wait for 5 hours, charged me $2,200. Now, the second piece was getting an appointment with a urologist. Oh my God, like I called so many urologists, so many of them, and all appointments were 2 months later, 3 months later. Like I didn't know what else was supposed to be done. So I think I had added like one more task to my daily routine, where I would call people just to see if anyone would take my call and get me an appointment. Finally, after some luck, I was able to get an appointment in August with one of the specialists. And this was step 3 of facing the horror of the American healthcare system. I reached the specialist office. They kept me waiting, again ran a few more tests, of course charged me another $400, $500 for this. And this time they were like, everything that you are describing, you seem so stressed out with everything. The like urinary symptoms are sometimes initial reactions of or initial diagnosis for MS. They really scared me. I was like, I have a completely normal life. This has happened twice. I was released with UTI. How are you throwing MS so casually? But this urologist was like, you gotta come and do like some sort of a bladder test, but we are still pretty sure that this could be neurological. So I left that office feeling really scared and scarred trying to book this appointment. But I still had like immense belief in myself that I don't think this is neurological, it's something else, because nothing else is like different in my life. I've been working out regularly, I'm a pretty active person, etc. So I wanted to get a second opinion. So then my search for another urologist began, and this time it was like reading all Reddit reviews and finding everything online to reach the next best urologist. I also took my physician's guidance, who recommended a couple of good ones, and finally I was able to get an appointment of this fantastic urologist. This time, I think I started feeling at ease for the first time with the US healthcare system, because this doctor was absolutely amazing. I went to his clinic, he did my ultrasound, he said the bladder is fine. He told me, I explained that I was so nervous that I had heard about this neurological thing, and he was like, that can't be, I'm shocked that someone told you that. Don't worry about it, and this has to be something else. We have to get the root cause of it. So he asked me to kind of start monitoring a few things in the next couple of weeks and come back to him after a month. Of course, I did all of that, but I think things were totally fine by that time. I missed one small detail, that when I was at the ER, not only did they want me to go see a urologist, they also wanted me to go see a gynecologist. Again, the same way I was navigating urologist appointments, I started navigating gynecologist appointments. Some of the ones that were highly recommended didn't have appointments till October, November, and this is me trying to call their offices in July. The same thing, I finally was able to find one of the gynecologists who decided to take me in August. Before going to this great urologist I spoke about, I did go see the gynecologist as well. The gynecologist did a transvaginal ultrasound and a couple of blood tests. She did see some fibroids, but she did not share the term fibroids with me. She instead told me that as you are nearing 35, it's important that you start taking like a fertility consultation from someone, and she directed me to one of the fertility clinics and said that do a detailed fertility analysis or something. Now I am also navigating this fertility clinic, not knowing why, but this was not like top priority for me, because I was really trying to get to understand what's happening with my bladder. Anyway, now between August and October, my life is absolutely normal. I haven't experienced these symptoms. I have done a bunch of tests. I have went to a lot of doctors. Everyone recommends another test. So at this point, I have done every single thing that you can think about, from getting your regular pap smear to getting 2 ultrasounds to getting a saline sonogram. Like, I think every single thing one can think about, I think I've gotten that. At this point, someone after my saline sonogram explained that I have these fibroids inside me, so I needed to really go see another gynecologist who would tell me what to do. Now, I had been like so frustrated navigating the US healthcare system, and I knew that I would be visiting India in December. So since I wasn't experiencing these symptoms again, I was like, okay, finally I will probably get myself checked in India and things will be fine. So now between June 2024 when it all started till October 2024, I had been to 2 urologists, multiple gynecologists, done a lot of tests, and then I had basically understood that I have fibroids. Now I'm a naturally curious person, so I started researching all about fibroids, and I think based on my research, I kind of realized that probably my symptoms are being caused by fibroids. So I went to my urologist who I really trusted, and I told him that this is where I think that this is what is causing my symptoms. He did say that this could be a very good reason why it is causing your symptoms, but if that's the cause, then I will have to go to a gynecologist, and they are the ones who are the right ones for the treatment. This was the first time I realized that US has this specialized care system. So what that means is you have your general physician, so think of it as your family doctor in India, who then refers you to these specialists. However, the difference between I think India and US is these specialists here do not talk to each other. So what's happening, or what the urologist is telling me and what these gynecologists are telling me, I am the one who's trying to explain, but no one is connecting the dots. So I go to, and now I don't have a gynecologist because the previous one was like, oh, think about fertility, and was not available to kind of understand or explain my situation. So I wanted to get to the next gynecologist, but the appointment was in November. So because I wasn't experiencing any other symptoms, I was like, okay, I'll go to this one gynecologist who I think has really good reviews in November and figure it out. But I was very confident that all of this is happening because of fibroids. I think Reddit was, I think, one of the best forums I have found where people shared their journey in detail, and I was like, okay, I'm not alone. Now I also started talking to some of my friends here, and a lot of them who had gotten pregnant, after getting pregnant, figured out that they either had fibroids and things like that, but it was not really causing symptoms. So it is not something that's really talked about or researched about, or the only treatment here is it either goes away by itself when you hit menopause, or it goes away if you have a baby, or you have to get a surgery done if it starts causing symptoms. So I knew these were the cases, and because I was having no other symptoms since July till October, I kind of thought that it's kind of gone away and things will kind of improve by themselves. Where things changed was like October is the time when you have all of your festivities and celebrations, from Halloween to multiple Diwali parties to Navratri and whatnot. And while I was enjoying all of that, we had like this one Diwali party that we had at our place. I think that was one of the final ones we were doing. Everything ended. It was a great night. But that morning I woke up with similar pain and symptoms, and I did not know what to do. I took the medicine because this time what I had ended up doing was the medicine that the ER people had offered me in July 4th. I had called my friend in India and understood what the composition was and had gotten those medicines. The name is Bactrim. I think it's a very common UTI medicine, and I had gotten multiple of those so that I don't have to like get a prescription in the middle of the night if it happens again. So I just took some of those Bactrim thinking that in 24 hours it will go away. I took the Bactrim, but nothing was changing. This time my symptoms were not improving, so I had to go to the ER for the second time on I think November 2nd or 3rd is when I went to the ER here in the US, and this time I was in so much more pain. Again, it was the same process where it was a 40-minute waiting. I was yelling in pain, but no one would care. They took my ID. They told me we will call you when we have an open bed available. But this time when I went in, they did have like specialists and doctors, and I had a much better experience. There were people attending. They were like ready to listen to what I was talking about, but again they were pushing me in different directions. But this time I was very clear that this is fibroids, and I think my symptoms are being caused by fibroids, so please take a look at it. I think they did the test again for UTI. They didn't get anything. And I was here. I had reached the ER, I would say, around 1 a.m. at night. And I think by 6 or 7 a.m. they had done a ton of tests. But this time, because I had pushed so much for fibroid stuff, they got an transvaginal ultrasound, they got a CT scan, and they got an MRI. The medical bill, of course, was I think $35,000 or $40,000. Thanks to my insurance, I didn't have to pay that much because multiple ER visits and doctor visits, I had already hit my deductible. But Anyway, I'll stop digressing, but I got all these tests. They made me wait in the room till all the reports were there. And I think around 2 p.m. I was discharged. They confirmed that it's fibroids. What I was saying is correct. And I just needed to go see the gynecologist and understand what my next steps look like. Remember, I told you I had a gynec appointment in mid-November. Their resident was there actually while I was in the ER. So he examined me and also confirmed that because it's a fibroid, he was like, I'll try to move up your appointment so that you can come see the doctor much faster. So thankfully this time I was able to get in front of a doctor 1 week after all of this happened. I went to the doctor and he is an amazing gynecologist. For the first time, someone again, this is the good part of the US medical system, where the doctor made me feel really better. He said, I'm so sorry that you had to navigate this. If you were able to come to me the first time this happened, I would have immediately told you that this is a fibroid. And for me, this whole experience with fibroid, I'd never even heard about this term. So I was like, this was based on what I heard. It was all new understanding. But when I explained everything to the doctor, like all the tests I had gotten done, he told me that I did not need any more tests. He knew what was going on with me. He just needed some time to study all of my reports, and he would come and give me what my next steps in treatment plan would look like. So he told me to come back after a couple of days after he has time to absorb all this information. I told him that's totally fine. He told me just try to get me a couple of these reports, the ones from the ER, which is JCMC. He was like, I'm associated to it, so I will get those by myself. But the rest of the ones that you have done, just figure out a way to get me. Now, this was like another horror of navigating the US healthcare system, where to get my own reports, I had to pay, I think, $6 or $10 to release it to the doctor. I'm not sure how it works. Such a crazy system, but either way, my doctor got all the reports. I went after a couple of days and he told me that my fibroids are so big that I have to get it removed. Now, for everyone who's watching it this far, I had one large fibroid that everyone was talking about. It was more than 10 centimeters. If you know me, I am a really petite person. I would say like 5 feet. And then the doctor was saying that this one big fibroid definitely exists, and there is a small one around 4 centimeters or 6 centimeters that's also there. But this is so big that it's pushing back on a lot of my organs, and I needed to immediately take it out so that I don't experience any other symptoms. Like, it was big enough, like I needed it out of my body now. I was shocked because I had never had surgery before, and I tried to explain to the doctor that my life is usually normal other than that one day when it suddenly happens. So is there like no medicine, like if it's such a common thing that every woman experiences? And he was like, no, there is just no way. Or the only way is if you detect it early on, you can kind of manage it. So anyway, I asked him about like my plan, and he told me that it has to be a surgery. Remember, I told you that I had read so much about fibroids that I knew different kinds of surgeries that were there. Like, your hysterectomy is when they completely remove your uterus. A myomectomy is when they try to preserve your uterus, but a myomectomy can be an open one or a laparoscopic one. The open one is like C-section, but in C-section they would remove your baby, but here they would like literally go into the uterus and see where the fibroid is and remove that. So it's a little bit more open and invasive. And then the laparoscopic one, of course, like a medical system is quite advanced, and depending upon where it's located, most of it can be out laparoscopically. The doctor that I was, my gynec that I was working with, he had experience with laparoscopic, but looking at me, he said that he wouldn't attempt laparoscopic on me because my fibroid was too big and he just doesn't feel comfortable doing that. He encouraged me to, if I wanted to get a second opinion and get it removed laparoscopically, he would be very, very supportive of that too. But he was very confident that it would be very hard for me to find someone with my stature where people would be open to attempting laparoscopic on me. Now, this is where I think things were crazy. I really trusted this doctor, but I think it's just the medical system in the US where they have to tell you every single thing that can go wrong in the surgery. So I think he just laid out, and because I was asking a lot of questions, he told me every single thing that could go wrong in the surgery, and that really, really scared and scarred me. I wasn't even prepared to go through a surgery, let alone I had visited the office thinking that there will be some treatment plan to manage a fibroid, and here I was presented with the only option, which was to get it out. Anyway, I came back and was trying to process all this information. In the meantime, back home in India, I have a family of doctors and had been sending them reports, and all of them had confirmed it's fibroids. But after I told them that surgery was the only option, and the doctor is asking me to remove it through an open myomectomy, they highly recommended to push for laparoscopic only. So they did say that do whatever research, but try to go through a laparoscopic version. Now, this is all happening in November. I had lost all patience and had no more energy to like call, make appointments, find a laparoscopic gynecologist, and then build trust with them, because what I had also learned is the US healthcare system is as good as you finding a great doctor. So I have had the best experience with a urologist, a worst experience with a urologist, a best experience with a gynac, the worst experience with a gynac. So I just did not know what my laparoscopic research and the attempt to find an appointment would look like. And I just did not want to live in fear that this could happen any more time. So I started consulting with some of the gynacs in India. Now, as I started talking to my friends in India, I was shocked at how everyone knew about fibroids. My friends were like, oh, during our annual checkup, ultrasound is a common thing. And I have known about my fibroids for like years now. This is small. And I was shocked at how they knew about it. And because I had moved to the States in 2017, I had never gotten one of these done. And I didn't even know that this was an option. If only the women health was a priority in the world, I think having an ultrasound at least a couple of years should be something that must be offered in the US, just like you do a pap smear, you know. If only every woman can get an ultrasound early on, they will be aware what is happening. And if I had done probably an ultrasound in 2017 and found this little fibroid, probably there was a way to manage it with medicines, but I didn't even know this existed. Anyhow, my friend connected me to her gynac, and I'm so glad I spoke to her. I spoke to her on the phone, and my mindset shifted completely, because she just made me feel so much more comfortable about this entire process and how normal it is in India and how comfortable they are attempting this laparoscopically. What she explained to me is the way laparoscopic surgery works is it's a little bit more tedious on the doctors. And the recovery is much faster for the patient. So if you just think of it, the open stuff is easier for the doctors, recovery is harder for the patient. Laparoscopic harder for the doctors, but recovery is easier for the patient. The US healthcare system will make everything easy for the doctor, I think not for the patient, unless you can go advocate for yourself. But I think the way the India healthcare system is designed, it's a faster diagnosis, and then it's about patient recovery first. So even my gynac was like, if I had my gynac in India was like, if I knew about your symptoms in June, I would have told you then and there that after a negative UTI test on your urine, this is a fibroid. So basically, as I started talking to her, I started feeling more comfortable, and I asked her, if I choose to come to India and get this done, what would it look like? And she told me like it's very easy to get in. Like if I come in, it will take them a week to do the tests, make sure I'm okay, and she can get me in like very quickly. And I was shocked, like it is that easy to get it done. And I was anyway planning my trip to India because of a family wedding I needed to attend. So I chose to just maybe like take that decision while I was in India if I feel symptoms again or anything like that. I just wanted to recap, like this all started in June 2024 for me, and now I would say mid-November 2024 is when someone has told me surgery, and I'm now exploring my surgery options. In the US, if I wanted to get it done, it would be probably in like February, March, or whenever I would find a laparoscopic specialist, build trust with them, and then kind of have an appointment. So I went to India and I met the doctor in person. I still felt very, very comfortable. They did the tests again. She had a good sense. She figured that I was extremely nervous about everything. So I think she went above and beyond to make sure that I feel okay. The name of my doctor is Dr. Mridula Sarda. I got my surgery done at Nanavati Max Hospital. I'll leave all her details there, just in case you want to reference. But now I'm in India, and we have decided a date to do this surgery, because I'd also experienced severe hydronephrosis, which means like there was some water retention in the kidney anytime these fibroids were flaring up or whatever that was happening. Anyway, now in India, as usual, I'm a nervous person, never been through surgery, not sure what to expect. The doctor made me feel good. What I would say now that I am 6 weeks done after surgery is going into a surgery is the hardest part. I think coming out of it for me was better than going into it, because I did not know what to expect. Mindset was a big thing. They get you off food and drinks for like 24 hours just so that your system is like clear and things like that. So to give you a sense of timeline, 18th December is when I got admitted to Nanavati, where they did like some of the tests for me, put me under observation. They told me just to have breakfast and get checked in. I got checked into the hospital around 4 p.m. I had to stop drinking water from 12. Before that also I was not allowed to eat anything. My surgery was scheduled for December 19th at 8 a.m. And then the surgery took around 2.5 hours. I distinctly remember as I woke up from surgery, the doctor was like, nothing went wrong, there was no blood loss, like you're totally fine, so just relax. I remember that moment really well because it was so stressful for me, the whole piece. Of course, I was in India, so I was surrounded by friends and family and everyone who went above and beyond to make sure that I felt absolutely comfortable. I spent a day in the hospital. I'm generally, if you know, like I'm a pretty healthy person, active person. So while I was in pain, I also have a very high threshold for pain. So coming out of the surgery, yes, it was painful, but I requested that I wanted to start walking because I was starting to feel sore just lying on the bed. Within 2 days, I would say I was like starting to walk. After 3 to 4 days, I had started doing my like 7,000-8,000 steps. Within a week, I was doing like 10,000 steps, and I had taken a flight back to Durgapur as well because I wanted to go back home since everything else was happening in Mumbai. I would say, yes, while I was in pain, it wasn't that bad. I think it was more painful for me going into it than coming out of it. I'm so glad it's out now. And it took me 6 weeks, and now I'm back in the US trying to get back to normal life. Of course, like heavy exercises are not advised, but they've asked me to slowly get into it. Again, in the beginning of the video, I said I'll cover 3 things for you. One is about women health, which I touched upon in many facets, but I think endometriosis, fibroids, PCOS, these are such common things that happen about to every woman, and there's just not a lot of information. I don't say the same thing about PCOS or endo anymore because I think there are a lot of creators who are talking about it, but personally from a fibroid standpoint, I didn't find like that much content or awareness around it. I don't know if it was just me who was more naive, but I do think if the system was designed in a way that these things are monitored early on as a part of annual physical checkups, then people will not be in a situation where they have to get surgeries or be like so ignorant about it. But also a big learning for me is like take ownership of your own health and like do this extra research and see what is needed for you to get done. If you're a woman, please make sure you're getting your pap smear done regularly. Second, between the US and healthcare system, I said I'll talk about in this video. What I have realized, the US healthcare system is designed around insurance, right? So it's harder to get appointments, like doctors are extremely busy. You are advised so that no one gets sued. People explain way too much to you so that if you are someone who's already nervous, can get thrown off guard. And the number one thing I think about the US healthcare system is the US healthcare system is as good as the doctor that you find. If you have ended up finding the best doctors and the best physicians, and I think your experience might be completely different than my experience, but if you are in my position trying to navigate something, please advocate for yourself. If you are going and meeting a doctor and something feels off, believe in yourself that something is off and go take that second opinion. And you might think that second opinion is much harder because you'll have to navigate appointments again, but it's going to be worth it. Don't settle for a doctor you do not feel comfortable with in the US. And even if you are in the US, please keep a line open in India with some of the doctors, just because the diagnosis is much better in India no matter what anyone says. But I hope through my journey you understand what the ER systems look like, what navigating a doctor's appointment looks like, not settling for a good doctor looks like, advocating for yourself looks like. So hopefully that gives you some clarity. And yes, this comes with huge medical bills. Like I think I got the same sonography, blood tests, everything done in India, and it cost me like 10,000 rupees. And here my medical bill was I think 45,000 US dollars. So I think it's just about the costs are high. You hear about this all the time, so I'll not spend more time talking about how expensive expensive the medical care is, but it's important to understand like at what point you want to draw the line and take that second opinion. But remember to advocate for yourself. I hope you don't have to ever navigate the US healthcare journey, and I hope you have good insurance. I think a lot of people work just very hard in the US in a corporate job because you can get really good insurance, and a lot of that worry is taken away. But thank you so much if you're still watching. I had shared a lot of my journey on my Instagram channel, and people had shared about their journeys too. A lot of that you can find in highlights in case you're feeling alone or you feel you don't have any or enough information about women health. If you are in a similar situation, please leave that in comments as well. I will try to answer what I can based on my experience. All the doctors that I really trust, my urologist here, I leave the contact. My gynecologist in the US, I will leave the contact. And my gynac in India, who I absolutely adore. If you ever need a second opinion or anything done, please check her out. None of this is paid or sponsored. I truly want to make sure that if I have experienced all this in the last 6 months and come out of it, you can come out of it as well, and I hope you get something out of this video. If things aren't going your way, remember, it's okay, yaar, because they will eventually turn around. Until next time, this is Priya signing off.